Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on mobile WMS on Dynamics 365 for Business Central and the explanation of our new extension API. My name is Peter List. I'm the CTO of Tasklet Factory, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you everyone to this webinar. This is a historic moment for Tasklet Factory, as it actually marks the end of coding directly in our solution and doing everything through events and doing it in your own extension. So it's going to be a much simpler world going forward for you guys who work with our solution. We are very happy to see so many people who have decided to spend an hour together with us. We have almost 300 signups for this webinar, and it's the biggest one we've done ever. So thank you for attending today. Hopefully we can show you some good stuff. That's the plan. I am only responsible for the introduction today. My good colleague Morten Larsen will do most of the talking. He's doing the presentation. Morten is the leader of the team behind the solution, who has refactored our old CAL-based solution and moved it, refactored it into an extension that can be extended. It is very much a team effort, and I just want to show you the team behind. So on the next slide here, you'll see the team. So we have Morten to the right, we have Michael Voigt, Johannes Nielsen, and myself. I haven't really done anything, but I have all the history in this project. But this is the team behind the solution. And guys, I'm very proud of you. It's a great job you've done, and I'm very happy that we can share the result of it with the world now. So with that said, I almost forgot, I have some practical information. So this session is recorded. It will be uploaded to our Tasklet Factory University afterwards, so you can download it from there and share it with colleagues who are not able to attend. If you have any questions along the way, we have Michael and Johannes on the chat monitoring the questions that you put in, and we'll try to answer them. I'm not sure we're going to address any of them in the session. We have time for Q&A at the end. We'll try, if there are some good generic questions that add value for everyone, we'll take it up at the end of the Q&A, but otherwise they'll be answered during the session. Have I forgotten anything, Morten? Are we ready to go?
I think we're ready to go.
All right, let's do it. Take it away then.
Thank you, Peter. I'm very excited to be able to present what we've been working on for the last half year or so. We'll start with explaining our current offerings for Business Central on-prem and SaaS. I will then introduce the new extension API for customizing mobile WMS on Business Central. We will explore the design patterns we have implemented for this. We will look at the tools available when customizing mobile WMS, and then I will demo an example made with this new extension API. Before ending with a Q&A session. As Peter mentioned, my colleagues are ready to answer any questions you have directly in the chat. You just need to remember when you write in the chat to select send question to staff, or else we won't answer. Before we get started, I just want to outline that the webinar is scheduled to take about an hour. Depending on the Q&A session at the end. And I know that a lot of people with varying roles have joined today, so the first 20 minutes I will be presenting quite a high-level overview of our offerings for Business Central and what our new extension API brings to that. And after that, we'll go into detail with this, and the presentation will get quite technical with a deep dive into the design patterns and the code of the demo examples. So let's get started by looking at our current offerings for Business Central on-prem and SaaS. So for SaaS, we recommend that you install mobile VMS from AppSource. This version you can click and install and then customize it by extending the mobile VMS base app using integration events or by creating new document handler code units for new modules. It is still possible to download a patented extension version of mobile VMS from Tasklet Factory University and upload this to a cloud tenant through the extension management page. Historically, this version was used by partners to modify the solution and then maintain it themselves. But with the introduction of our extension API, this is no longer recommended as the primary way of customizing mobile VMS. The patented extension should now only be used for better understanding how the base app works and to use as template for new functionality or modules. So on-prem, you have the same options. You need to download the platform-specific version of mobile VMS from Tasklet Factory University. In the download center under guides and objects for Dynamics 365 Business Central, there are several options available. With the release of Platform 15, we had to create platform-specific versions, as for example, the app JSON files differs between Platform 13.14 and Platform 15. Also, the new system application layer creates some differences between the platforms that we needed to maintain. So it's important here that you download the correct version. And again, the same rules apply as before. We recommend you use the on-premise app and only use the patented extension source code for reference. So let's look at the new extension API. Starting with version 4.33, released in December 2018, we have had an AppSource offer for Business Central. These first AL versions was a direct AL porting of our existing C-side application and really only introduced a few new features to better support mobile VMS customizations in the cloud through extensions. Generally speaking, if you needed to do any major customization work to mobile VMS for Business Central, you had to rely on our per tenant download, which still allowed AL in-code customizations to be made. So this necessitated a refactoring of our app to make it possible to customize mobile VMS without having to modify the base app. So we set out to create this new extension API using the tools provided and used by Microsoft for the same. Before we started, we wrote down some goals of what we wanted to achieve with this new extension API. And of course, we wanted to create integration events that would allow partners to customize mobile VMS without modifying the base app. The benefits of this is easy upgrade of mobile VMS. Historically, what we were seeing was that partners installed the newest available version of mobile VMS when implementing at a customer site. And after that, upgrades rarely happened unless there was an issue with the solution that an update would fix. And more often, a hotfix would be implemented that fixed the specific issue. When updating, the partner would have to merge customizations for the customer into the new version. So upgrading could be quite time-consuming and cumbersome sometimes. By creating an extension API for customizations, the need for merging code could be eliminated, allowing for easy and more frequent updates of mobile VMS. Another benefit of creating an extension API is that it allows you to create repeatable software solutions for mobile VMS. For example, create a new module that can be reused and resold again and again. As the code is contained in its own extension, it's much easier to reuse the solution for another customer project. It could also be a layer that changes the behavior of mobile VMS to better fit your preferred way of working with the warehouse module that you always deploy together with our app.
And Morten, I think this is a really important point that instead of any time you do a customization to the mobile WMS solution, you now have the possibility to write the code one time and then reuse it for your other customers because it's in its completely own extension. And if you just kind of remember to kind of think a little bit product when you do customization, see if it can fit more than one, then you have at least a really good solution for getting it deployed. So I really hope that a lot of you partners, I know you've spent a lot of time developing solutions for your customers in your specific verticals. Hopefully we can get them into an extension so we can keep getting value out of it. All right, Morten, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So the next goal we set out for was also to remove XML handling from both our base app but also from the new interface. So in our C-side versions, you have to do a lot of XML handling, which requires knowledge about using XML DOM and creating a lot of local variables in relation to this. We wanted to take away this complexity so you as a partner can focus on adding value to the solution. So we have implemented a new design pattern for this, which we will go into detail with later, called Accessor tables. The next goal was to have consistent naming conventions for the new events. We will also get back to this in detail later. And we wanted to create a new AL support knowledge base documentation to supplement our current C-side common customizations and how-to articles. The last and most important goal when implementing the new extension API has been to avoid breaking changes, which means once an event has been published, we will not change it if it would mean breaking changes for event subscribers. And this was quite the challenge as we chose to release the new extension API as we progressed with it. So we had to admit to ourselves that it might not always be possible to avoid breaking changes, so we have chosen to adopt the same principles regarding this as Microsoft has. This means that if we introduce breaking changes, we will do our best to warn you by marking objects and procedures as obsolete. The warning will contain a date for when the object or procedure will be removed, and we will create articles in our knowledge base on how to handle the breaking change. That being said, we do not expect to introduce breaking changes unless it's absolutely necessary for evolving mobile WMS as a product or to introduce significant improvements to our customization story.
Yeah, hopefully if we need to introduce something new, we can keep the old way of doing it, just mark it as deprecated and just give people time to transition to a new, easier way of doing it. But we know this is important for you guys. We feel the effect of when Microsoft is doing breaking changes. We know how much work it generates. So we really want to respect this and keep this interface as stable as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so what's the current state of the extension API? Well, we started working on the extension API in May 2019, and with version 5 released in September 2019, we introduced the first number of integration events that allowed mobile WMS to be customized through extensions. And now with version 5.15, released February 2020, the API events and functionality we plan to create has been fully implemented. Of course, we know that we are not done yet. The extension API will continuously be improved and extended as we progress, both based on feedback and requests from partners and on our own roadmap for the product. During implementation of the API, we've been fortunate that several partners have been willing to test the capabilities of the API on real-world customer implementation. This provided us with valuable feedback on our events and knowledge base articles. This has been greatly appreciated, and thank you to all the partners that are participating. Work with removing XML handling continues both in our own base app as well as in integration events. We are seeing that this greatly reduces the complexity of our code and increases readability. Our knowledge base has been expanded with a new Business Central section containing templates, examples, how-tos, cases, and tutorials on customizing mobile WMS through our extension API. And we'll get back to this in just a moment. The last thing I want to say is that we're keeping the document handler pattern for full flexibility, allowing for you to take over specific document types by pointing these to your own code units. So document types are the different XML requests that are sent from the mobile device to the backend in Business Central. And this can be used in situations where no current events are present for the customization you require. Then you can copy a document handler code unit from the Patented extension source code and make the changes directly in the source code until a new integration event is released.
Yeah. That's kind of the ultimate flexibility here. If there's just something that's so much different from standard where you can't make it fit in that into that framework, you have the option of just start with a copy and then rewrite it from scratch. But this should really be a last resort, because if you go down this path, maintenance is on you, and you'll have otherwise it'll be ours. Morten, on the previous slide you said something about the documentation. I just want to, for you partners who've been with Tasklet Factory for a long time, that documentation has, we've done a lot through meetings, individual meetings. It's been really good, nice talking to you through the years. But now we've really put some effort into making a well-documented API, something that's really practical, something that, we know what you guys are doing for customization. So it's not just a printout of the function names, and then we've really tried to give some real-world examples of things that you could be building, and we'll be extending the documentation as much as the API, because we know it's important for you guys so please have a read. Morten will show you where it is, and we really appreciate feedback on it, because this allows us to help many of you at the same time.
Yeah, so let's look into the knowledge base. So we've expanded the knowledge base with a new Business Central section. And the Business Central knowledge base is divided into 3 parts: a customization section with a getting started section, an API documentation section with templates and examples of event subscribers, and we have a customization section with containing how-tos, cases, and tutorials to copy and learn from. Then we have a documentation section with links to user and installation guides. And last, we have a section with frequently asked questions, hot fixes, system requirements, and common error messages and known solutions to them. And as Peter said, the knowledge base will continuously be improved and new examples added as we progress. So let's try and dive into the customization section. So let me just open up the knowledge base. Yeah, so we've created this getting started section with information about the prerequisites for getting started with customizing mobile WMS. We have the API documentation section, which again is divided into sections according to the different document handler code units we have implemented integration events in. If you know the CSI implementation, you can recognize these as actually being the code units we have in our app. And let's look at the receive section, for example. So get receive order lines, and post receive order are different document type XML requests that are sent from the mobile device when working in the receive module of mobile WMS. And under each document type, it's possible to see which integration events are available and what you can use them for. For example, you can use on get receive orders on after set from events to populate values and orders displayed at the mobile device. And as you can see, there are several events to choose from here. Here you need to find the event that fits the warehouse setup you have implemented in Business Central. And let's look at the on after set from warehouse receipt header, which is the event to choose if you have require receive activated on your locations in Business Central. As you can see here, for each event, we have made a template for the event subscriber and a small example on how to use the event And these are available for you to copy and paste directly into your AL projects.
Hopefully the support for for doing lookups in Visual Studio Code will improve over time. At the moment, it's not the best in the world. So we've made the documentation here, so it's super easy to copy and paste right into your AL files.
Yeah. And let's dive into the customization example section. So here you can see we have several sections. We have the how-tos that are short examples of different basic tasks. We have larger cases for examples of common tasks you want to develop for your customers. And then we have the last section, tutorials, that's really a guided educational scenario to help you get started with this. Now let's look at some of the design patterns we have implemented in our solution when implementing the new extension API. So a lot of time and effort has gone into naming our events, and for two reasons. First reason being that once an event is released, we can't change it without breaking your extensions. And the second reason was to give the event name context of when it's executed. So let's look at how events for planned functions are named. We use the naming pattern on document type on event. The document type refers to the type of XML request that the event occurs in, and the on event indicates what has or is occurring within the event. Examples of this are on get receive order, on after set from purchase header. So this would be on the document type get receive orders and on the event after set from purchase header.
So for those of you really technical guys who have been with Tasklet Factory for a long time, know that a receive order can be multiple things. It can be a warehouse receipt, but it can also be based on a purchase order directly. And here you have that, you have, maybe you want to do different things based on which order it is. But we also have something extra if you want to implement something for everything, right? There's another event, the any header, I think.
Yeah, so if we want to cover all the different source types, we have an on after set from any header, which now this one on after set from purchase header gives you the purchase header record. So after we've written the order, from the purchase header, we'll give you the record and a base order line element with all the values we set. But we also have the on any option, and this gives you a rec graph, which you can then evaluate specific type you want to actually use. So another example of this pattern is the on get pick orders on set filtered warehouse activity. So here, when the document type being get pick orders or the request being get pick orders, and the event is set filtered warehouse activity. So this gives you the possibility to handle filters when working with warehouse activities. We have some document handler code units that handle several registrations through the same document type request. This is the unplanned registrations and the lookup pages. Here we have added on registration type to the event names. So an example of this would be on lookup on locate item, on after set from bin content. So the document type will be lookup, the registration type bin content, and on the event after set from bin content. So this would be when the lookup has been set from a bin content record.
I know, Morten, I know you've put a lot of work into making these names consistent. It's still, reading them it's a very difficult task, and that's why these events can really just stand alone in the documentation. They need to be put in context with some real world examples so you can see, and hopefully when you've used them for a long time, the naming will be logical, because I know a lot of thought has been put into making it consistent. So
yeah. So last, we also have events with the standard event naming pattern on event. These integration events are not bound to a specific document type, and an example of this is the on after get item number GS1 application identifier. So in this example, we add or map the application identifier 90 and 91 from the GS1 barcode format as identifiers for the item number when scanning barcodes on the device. The change is with one event subscriber, which then impacts the entire application. So this is will be a global change.
Yeah, I used this yesterday with a partner where we, printing out a special label where we put the item number in. It was in 91 AI, and it was just single line of code to do that, and yeah, moved on. So it took like 10 seconds to do that.
Another design pattern we have implemented in our integration events is the IsHandled pattern. On some events, we allow you to flag if the standard implementation should be carried out or not. An example of this can be found with the event on before get item crossref list. The procedure get item crossref list returns a list of item cross references to the device that an item can be identified by when scanning item barcodes. If you want to change this behavior, for instance, if you do not use item cross references or have your own implementation of this, then you can override the standard procedure by filling the barcode list to return variable and setting IsHandled to true. In this example implementation, only the GTIN of the item card will be a valid barcode on the mobile device.
All right. So this is a way where you can completely rewrite. So this example here will not use the cross references in any way. And we've seen some other examples where, for example, those of you familiar with the LS Retail extension, it's a very small extension that's been used somewhere, but they have their own table for barcodes, and this is the event you would hook into to kind of add support for that. But the good thing is you can decide if you want to keep the cross references and just add something else, or you can rewrite it completely. And then this will work everywhere in the app. So there's just one event that kind of, one event to rule them all, in this case with the barcodes.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, if you just wanted to add extra barcodes, valid barcodes to the item crossref list, there's also an on after get item crossref list event, integration event, so you can use that instead. So the last design pattern I would like to introduce is the one that has had the biggest impact on our code base. Something we have named Accessor tables, which is a concept derived from C#'s Accessor classes. So historically, changes to XML responses was made directly in mobile WMS document handler code units. For example, code unit mob WMS receive. So changes implied writing directly to the XML output and required knowledge of the XML element, a case-sensitive XML tag, and using a correct namespace. So in this example from C-side, you'd go into the code, comment out the line of the value you didn't want to send to the mobile device, and put in your own line. So in this example, we change over delivery validation from block to 1. So doing an integration event for each value available in different code units was really not feasible. And also we wanted to take away the need for XML handling. So you can see here that this is an implementation of our get receive orders. And if we wanted to give you access to change each and every one of this, this would just not be possible.
That would be a lot of events. Yeah.
Yeah. So this necessitated a refactoring of our model for making custom changes to the XML requests and responses. And as a part of this refactoring, we are introducing this new Accessor layer to manipulate the XML content, but without the need to manipulate the XML documents directly as to date. So rather than manipulating the XML output directly, values are now set in new Accessor tables that hides all the underlying XML considerations. By using set get accessor methods in these Accessor tables, content is automatically formatted and inserted at correct nodes and namespaces in the XML documents. And so far, a bunch of new Accessor tables has been introduced, and each table corresponds to a specific part of the mobile WMS XML schema and makes available get set accessors for each node in the corresponding namespaces. So what has this changed for our app? Well, if we look at the example from before, which is the C-side implementation of the get receive orders response, and compare this to our new implementation, you can see that this really reduces the complexity of the code. It improves the readability and reduces the code needed for creating the response to the mobile device. And let's look at how to use the new access table when customizing mobile WMS. So changes now require a new event subscriber procedure to be declared in your own code. You can subscribe to, among others, a number of new and after set from events. And the event is triggered after the base app have run and filled the base order line element and is triggered for each line of the source document. So you can now change or add values that will afterwards create the XML response to the mobile device. In this example, we subscribe to get receive order lines on after set from purchase line and set over delivery validation to 1, changing the standard implementation, which is blocked. So the same change as from before, but without touching the code base. So I have created an example which uses the warehouse class functionality of Business Central and adds this to mobile WMS. So if you don't know the warehouse class code functionality, in advanced warehousing configurations, you can assign warehouse class codes to items, bins, and zones to control where different item classes are stored, such as frozen goods. You can divide a zone into several warehouse classes. For example, items in the receiving zone can be stored as frozen, cold, dry, or other classes definable in Business Central. So when you work with warehouse classes and a default receiving bin, you must manually fill in the appropriate bins on the warehouse receipt. If the correct bins are not assigned, then the quantity cannot be received. So what do we want to achieve with this example? Well, we want to show the warehouse class of an item if it, for example, requires cold storage directly on the received lines. We also only want to allow receiving to the bins to bins with matching warehouse classes. We want to add filtering options to the receive order list, so we can filter it by warehouse class. We want to create a new page which allows the warehouse employee to assign or change warehouse class on items directly from the mobile device. And we'll add an action on the receive order lines page that uses this new page to allow assigning warehouse classes during receiving.
Yes, Morten has really tried to find kind of a real-world example of something where it's not just, see, we can change a display line on the order list. It's something that's much more, it's a bigger task that will touch more of or use more of the events. And I think when we get into the code and you can kind of see how it behaves with the with the lookup when you click the dot and see what you have available, this is where it really shines. But this is a good example. I think you want to show what, yeah.
So I'll jump into my Docker and just get the extension installed.
So like any good TV chef, Morten has of course cooked up something. And
yeah, so here you can see I've got mobile WMS installed, and then I actually have several dependent extensions installed in here. So the example I want to show you today is the set warehouse class code. So let me just get this installed. And as you can see, I've really componentized my customizations here. So this is what we imagine when saying repeatable software. So I have a module to activate register quantity by scan on receive here, and I have one to add the application identifier 90 for item numbers to the GS1 barcode format. So just separate these different things so it's easier to extract it and use it between your customer implementations. So let's get back to our example. Let's see if we still have the mobile device. We don't have it. So let me log into the system. So now after installing my extension, I have a new menu item here. This is the page we wanted to create, the set warehouse class code. If I press it, I get a new page where I can scan or type the item number, which returns me a list I can choose of warehouse class codes I can choose from. So this is chocolate, so this needs to be stored in a cool place. I get back a successful message that this has now been set to cold for the item TF002. So let's go into our receiving menu. And here we wanted to add the filtering possibility on the warehouse class code. So through the extension, I've added this filter field, warehouse class code. And if I now filter to cold and apply the filters, I can see that one of my warehouse orders actually disappeared. And if I click this one, I can see that this is still here because I have an item on here, the TF002, that has the warehouse class code cold.
So that actually filtered not on the header, but actually on the line level, so looking for items that are supposed to be stored here and only showing those orders. Just like when you scan an item barcode to find the orders with that item on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, also here when a warehouse class is assigned, the user is actually asked to validate the bin code. So when I press the line, it wants me to scan this bin. This is the bin that is the cold storage. If I try to scan a different bin, it blocks me. So this is something my extension has also implemented. So you can see this item that doesn't have a warehouse class code. It doesn't force me to actually enter the to bin because this doesn't have any special storage conditions. So this can just be pasted anywhere on my warehouse. Also, I've added a new action here to actually be able to add as a warehouse class code directly on the receive line. This is context aware, so if I choose this item TF003, it links me directly to the new page I created. Automatically accepts, so it jumps directly to the step here. And if I now choose to store this code as well and accept this, it goes back, updates the lines. Now it also wants me here to validate the correct bin to place this in and shows the warehouse class code here.
I hope you have the mindset that, this is just an example. You can, anytime where you want to add something special to a line, you have the possibility. So this, if you can do this example, you can do a million others kind of following that principle. And that's kind of what we've seen over the years, that this is a typical way. Yeah, an area where partners are interested in doing some customizations.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you get going with implementing such functionality? Well, you should always start by searching the knowledge base for examples. And if you are not able to find any, you should inspect the XML requests and responses that are sent between the mobile device and the backend by using the mobile document queue. This is a very helpful tool for development and troubleshooting. So let's look at the mobile document queue. So this is really your best friend when developing and troubleshooting. So if you wanted to know how to add warehouse class codes to the receive all lines list, you should trigger the get receive all lines request and and search for this in the mobile document queue. So I would choose a receive order and then look in the mobile document queue to see what happened. So here I can see that the document type get receive order lines has been triggered, and I can actually see the response XML from here, download it and open it up. So by inspecting the XML, I can actually see that if I wanted to add something to a display line, I need to manipulate this. And all the different triggers that we have to set. And some of the things we are actually manipulating here is the 2-bin value and the validate 2-bin. So by inspecting the mobile document queue, I can see that I need to go into get receive order lines of the API documentation. So let's find that. Here I can see that on after set from is used to populate values and order lines displayed at the mobile device. And this is an advanced warehouse, so I need to run on the warehouse receipt lines. So I will go in here, copy the event subscriber directly into my AL project, and then change it as I see fit. So let's jump into the code and look at this example. So here I have a code unit with a single event subscriber. I've subscribed to on get receive order lines on after set from warehouse receipt line. So I fetched the item, and here you can see I can actually get the item number directly from the new Accessor class that is made available from as a parameter on the integration event. You also get the warehouse receipt line, so I could have used this as well to get the item, but I just wanted to show you this get access as well. And what I say here is that if the item has a warehouse class code, then I want the behavior to change on the mobile device. So first of all, I filter the bins for the location from the warehouse receipt line, the zone code, and then the warehouse class code of the item. And if I find a bin with the correct storage condition, I set the 2-bin and I set validate 2-bin to true, and I won't allow bin changing. So I really want to use it to put this item into the correct storage bin. And last, you can see that I set display line 2 to show the bin code, and on display line 4, I add the warehouse class code to be shown.
For you guys who try to set or manipulate what's set on the display lines, you really had to spend some time figuring out the right place to go in and make your adjustments. Here, you just need to know what you want to change, and then you do it, because you don't care about the logic of the standard app. You have better knowledge, and you wanna just override it, and you can put in your own business logic, and you know it's not going to interfere with the standard app. So yeah, this is super easy compared to the way it was before.
Yeah, and exactly. And the last line I have here is a generic set value function that just to highlight that we can actually write anything in the XML documentation. So we have this set value function where I can, for example, add weight in there, and then the value of it. So and that can be referenced, from the mobile device, but also from code. So the next example I want to show you is the filtering. So again, you should start by going to the knowledge base, look into the customization examples, and search for example, the how-to. So here I have an how-to on how to filter orders, and then just let the example guide you to what you need to do. So let's look at how I implemented the filtering part of this. So let me open up a new code unit. By following the how-to article, I figured out that I needed to have an event subscriber that hooks into the code unit mod WMS reference data. This is to actually create the new filter field and add them to the receive order filters. So the first line here, I init the header configuration by a key name receive order filters, and then I create a list with warehouse class codes. So I call a function called create list field, and we have several of these creates in here. So if I write create, I can see that I can create a date field, I can create a date time field, decimal field, integer field, and so on, we have these constructor methods for all the different field types available to add as header fields. The other function here, set list values and set optional, is for kind of like properties of the field. So for this list field, I set the list values that's a string value of the browse class codes with a separator between. And then I set it to be optional, so I don't have to have value in here. So I could also, for example, have set a list separator standard. It defaults to using a semicolon, but I could choose something else if I wanted to do that. So I could have done the ampersand instead or something like that. So the accessor tables are really context aware, so you get a lot of help in here. So again, by following the how-to, I figured out that this only adds my filter field. I also need to handle the specific filtering. And the how-to article pointed me to the event subscriber, the integration event I needed. So I've hooked an event subscriber up to on get receive orders on set filter warehouse receipt. This returns to me the header filters that the user actually wrote on the mobile device. It returns to me a warehouse receipt header record and a warehouse receipt line record. And I get an IsHandled Boolean at the end. The IsHandled Boolean is something you can use to actually override how we set filters on our standard filter fields. But you also have to set it with your own filter fields just to tell the mobile application that this filter has actually been handled. So what I search for here in the header filter is that if the name of it is the warehouse class code, that's the new filter I added in here, then I'll handle the filtering. So I set a filter on the warehouse class code on the warehouse receipt line, and then I set IsHandled to true. So normally the warehouse class code isn't the field on the warehouse receipt line, but I created a table extension that added this as a flow field. So just to be able to actually filter on it here. And when you see an order disappear from the order list, it's because I've actually filtered away all the lines here. So that actually makes the header disappear from the list.
Yeah, I think this is if you had to implement this in the old version, you really needed to know a lot. You need to have a lot of information on how our standard solution worked. Now you can just use the documentation and just implement the events, and you don't really need to know anything about the inner workings of the standard app. And very few lines of code to implement this. So it looks good, Morten.
Yeah, it's good. So the last thing we implemented in this example was the new page. So how did I come about this? And well, I went again into the customization examples, and then I found this article, how to add a new unplanned function. And then just by following this guide, I could see that I needed to actually edit the mobile configuration file. And this is the application config file of the mobile device. And if you know this, this part hasn't really changed. So you still customize this the same way as you always did. So let me open up the application file and search for set warehouse class code. So here you can see I add my menu item as before. I create a new page here, and I add an action on the receive order lines down here. So it's still the same way you customize the application config file, but we have released a new tool for you that will help you with this. So we've released an XSD scheme that actually validates the file and also adds IntelliSense in here. So what I can do now is actually go in here and see what different properties I have available on for this page that is of a type unplanned item registration. So I can see here that I have a property called clear after post, which actually, so here you can control if you want the item number field on my page to be cleared after posting. So if I want it to be that, I can enter in this property and set it to true, and this this is available everywhere in this application config file.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and if you don't know about this file, this is where we're still happy to help you, have a discussion on what it is you wanna build. We'll help you set up this config file. You can do it on your own. I know we have quite a few partners who do this independently, but we know this is a typical area where most partners kind of ask us for help. And I still think it's great to talk to you guys. This is not, we still want to keep in touch and have sessions about where we can talk about different customizations you want to build for partners, because maybe we've seen it before. Maybe we have some feedback for you, and at least we can help you modify the application CFG file really, really quickly, so you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah. So this new option is available, or is possible, both in Visual Studio and VS Code, and we have a guide to help you with the setup of this. And this will be a part of the slides that we'll send out afterwards, so you can get this installed and really get going with this.
All right. So if they want, they can get the same warehouse class example up and running in their own. They get the full source code.
Yeah, I'll send it out.
Good, great.
So let's try to look at the EL part of this. So let's open up. Following the guide, I figured out that I needed to actually create a new header configuration, and I again do this by creating an event subscriber in the code unit mob WMS reference data.
So that's setting up the item field on your new page, the one you created.
Yeah, exactly. So I init a configuration key. This is the key I entered as the type, or the header config key in my application config file. And then I actually, here I can actually just do a one-liner. So here I call a function called create text field, item number, and I just need to actually enter an ID, because this is a procedure we use in our own base app whenever we need to create an item number field. So if we go to definition on this procedure, you can actually see what it does. So it creates a text field with an ID, the name, item number. It sets the label. It sets clear and clear to true, and it sets all these properties for you. So, and we have such a procedure for all the fields we use ourselves in the base app. So if we go and say create text field, or create a text field, say we have one for creating a bin field, a from bin field, item number, lot number, so on. So you can just use these. So again, just reducing the number of lines of code you have to enter to get going with this. So next part after this is to actually handle the request once you've scanned the item. And for this, I need to hook into the mob WMS ad hoc registration code unit and use an integration event called onGet registration configuration on add steps. So this gives me the registration type, the header field values, and it gives me a steps accessor table which I need to fill. So I start off by checking if the registration type is the one I created. Then I extract the item number that the user scanned, first into an item barcode field, because it could be a barcode. Then I call a toolbox function called getItemNumber, which actually searches the reference the item cross references, and the item number. I get my item, and then with this new accessor label, you can see the same context applies again. So I create a list step called mouse class code. I set some health labels, a label, set it to be optional, and I add the list values there. The last thing I do is set the registration type tracking, which is the value, the registration type value that's actually displayed in the document queue. So this is really helpful to set this when you want to do debugging or troubleshooting.
Morten, can just show the document queue again? I know this is a kind of a new concept, but it helps to kind of figure, if you're looking for something in the document queue, you can see you get a lot of these get registration, configuration, and post ad hoc. And it could be, you can't really see just on the document type if it's an unplanned move or count or this set warehouse class. So here in your handler, you can kind of set some context in that registration type that, that could help you in just figuring out what's going on. So it's a new concept. Now we have your attention. We just wanted to kind of point you towards it because it could help you in a support scenario with the customer.
Exactly. So the last part is actually when they've chosen a warehouse class code and press submit again, we need to add, we need to handle the posting of it. So we also have an event subscriber for this. It works in the same way. I checked if the registration type is mine. Then I handle the request values, perform any validation, and actually update the item. Here I can send back a success message to be shown to the user. Again, add the registration type to the mobile document queue, and then I need to set that this has been handled by me. And that's pretty much what's in it. So to be able to do this new page, around about 92 lines of code was actually needed. We also have this integration event still using XML, and here's the implementation of that. And that actually needed 151 lines of code. So we've really increased the readability and also reduced the lines of code needed to do these changes by implementing these new accessor tables. Yeah, and this concludes my presentation of the demo. And as you can see, customizations are still done primarily from the backend and by configuring the mobile device through configuration files. But now, without the need to modify our base app, and you still don't need any knowledge about Android app development or anything. So
yeah, and again, we still have, we don't believe in hiding any details. So that's why we still have the per tenant code you can download. So you can, and that is exactly the same source code as being used in the app source version. It has some other numbers, but otherwise it's a one-to-one. So you can see what the code behind it. For example, if you want to copy something and do something completely different. But otherwise, I think we have 3 minutes left. The Q&A, I know the team has been answering. The last thing I just want to mention is that if you require a feature or integration event that is not listed in our released or planned features, then please add a new ticket through our help desk, including a usage scenario, requesting a new integration event added to the mobile WMS base application. We'll then evaluate the request and get back to you if this is something that is already achievable or if this is something that we will implement support for in a future version. Yeah, and we can promise we'll be faster than Microsoft on adding these events if they are. We are lean and mean, an agile machine to get started. And if you have any per tenant extensions that you've already started that you want to convert, we're here to help you. Let's schedule some individual meetings where we look at what you've done, and then mapping it to different extensions. And that's what some of our partners have already been involved. So this is not, we've already tested out a lot of scenarios, but if there are anything new, we're interested in doing everything as extensions. We hope to never see any per tenant stuff again, but we still have the option, hopefully through the document types. I know that there's been some questions in the chat. I know that the Johannes and Michael has been answering them there. So I just have bonus info. We have, we're just on the verge. In our next release, we'll be including some support for printing labels directly. It was developed for doing printing in the cloud with Microsoft, but there's a little bit of it was pretty difficult to do. We have something new that we'll be releasing where you can, again, extend if you want to customize the standard labels we come with. There'll be new events where you can do that. I think we'll do a separate session on that just to show you what that can do, because printing is something we've heard requested quite a few times. Otherwise, I think we've spent the time. We respect your time. We started on time. We'll finish on time as well. want to thank you all for attending. Thank you, Morten, for the presentation. Thank you to the full team for developing this. It's been even though we have a nice simple extension that has kind of kept away from standard, it's still been a lot of work rewriting, refactoring the stuff and making sure that everything still works, putting a lot of stuff into automated testing. We are 100% ready for the cloud. We hope you guys will adopt the new extension API and start providing some really good solutions for our shared customers out there. And if there's anything, be in touch. And thank you guys.